Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I want to talk to you a little bit, kind of introspectively. This isn't a planned thing, this is just a rant, but talk to you a little bit about a purchase I just made, and what that kind of revealed to me about how I go through the world as a collector. First off, I want to thank my Patreon patrons who make purchases, as well as the channel, possible, and I also want to thank a bottle of fountain pen ink for turning my fingers pink. It's actually a dark scarlet red sort of ink, but yeah. So dermatologists, stop your engines. That's what's going on with my fingers here. But anyways, this knife right here is the Chris Reeve Knives Sebenza 21 small Doppler pattern. The Sebenza 21 is a knife that I have featured, well, the Sebenza generally, it's a knife I've featured on the channel many times, right? Partly because the Sebenza is a very important part of the high-end knife world, and for a lot of people, and I say that because it's kind of a touchstone, right? For a lot of people, this is their first grail knife. Like, oh my God, the Sebenza! I think that's increasingly less true for new people coming into the hobby due to, changes in pricing structure, as well as a huge blossoming variety that is, but I think for a lot of people, especially coming up in the hobby in my era, so to speak, the Sebenza was kind of where you started, right? And so they sell videos about Sebenzas, end up being really interesting. And this, I'm not going to even put Sebenza in the title here. Well, actually, crap, probably am. But anyways, I digress. This is not about that. Videos about Sebenzas do well because everyone's interested in them, because both controversial, like it or not, it's a fixture, right? And so I've done videos about Sebenzas. I've done one about the large Sebenza, the small Sebenza 21. Both of those guys I've done. I've done one about the Sebenza 31, the upgraded version of this. I've done one about the Inkosi. I've done one about the small Inkosi and the large Inkosi, for that matter. I've done one about the inlaid Sebenza. Doppler Sebenza. It was my last 21 review on this guy. I kind of gave my thesis about is that the Sebenza is still worth it in 2020. Actually, it might have been 2019, but the answer is still roughly the same. Anyways, I digress. I have done so many damn videos about the Sebenza and all of its various variants that the last thing in the world I need is another Sebenza. And in fact, purchasing for the channel, purchasing for content, is a major driver of my purchasing these days. Unlike most collectors who are just buying things that appeal to them, just buying things that jump off the sheet for them, so to speak, I pick up most of the stuff that I pick up because I think it would make for interesting content. A nice example of this is the Terrain 365 Invictus here. This is a really nice knife, dendritic cobalt blade here, so it's not even steel. Very, very different, very rust-proof, very weird knife. Absolutely not going to stick around. I bought it knowing full well this wasn't going to stick around in my collection. That's not a demerit on the knife. It's just not my style. It's relatively large. It's relatively thick. It's not exactly what I'm looking for. The little slip joint, now that has some possibilities, but this guy I purchased not because it was for me as a collector, but because I was interested in it and because I thought it would make some interesting videos. And that's been my pattern lately. If I buy something, it's usually for the channel. Even if it's like, oh, this is really cool. I think this is, but I'm very unlikely to buy something that I don't, that I'm not going to make a video about it. It's not interesting for me, or not going to make great content. I'm not going to buy something that, I don't need for the channel. And you know what the very, very last thing that I need for the channel is? Another Sebenza video. You know what the very last thing I need to purchase is? Another Sebenza. You know what I just purchased? Another Sebenza. And that knife is right here. This is the Chris Reeve Knives Night Sky Sebenza. And more specifically, this is the Sebenza 31. We've got the lock bar, the ceramic lock face, as well as the clip here. And it's a beautiful knife. It's perfectly, it runs great. It's got a smooth action. It's a beautiful thing in many, many ways. But this is another Sebenza, and I really desperately don't need one. Yet here it is, and that made me wonder, and here it is with enthusiasm. Here it is with like, oh, I gotta go to the post office, I gotta pick up my... And that made me wonder, like, Nick, what the hell? What's wrong with you? Like, I know I'm irrational, but this one was extra, because it's not for the channel. But the thing is, this is a reminder to me that I am a collector. I am also an enthusiast, I'm also a reviewer, but at the end of the day, I am definitely I'm an enthusiastic collector. And for me, the Night Sky Sebenza has always been a bit of a thing, right? Because I like a whole bunch of what's going on here. I really, really do. I like the nature scene. Nature is something I like. I'm a fan of it, right? I like the fact that it's hand anodized. In fact, you can even see an area where the edge of the brush or the edge of the tree didn't even get hit. So it is very clearly that parts of this are done by hand, by a drill press. The little shooting star there. God knows we need to make some wishes lately. The moon, that is a little pearl in there. It's a little moon pearl. Maybe it'll keep me untransformed in the dark world. That was an Old Link to the Past joke. Anyways, proto gamers, you're with me there. But the night sky Sebenza has always had a thing for me. It's always been something I was interested in. Because even as I was just getting into the hobby, when I was just getting into the hobby, the Sebenza was like, oh my God, top of the rock. I remember saying to myself, wow, that's a beautiful knife, but there's no way I would ever pay $400 for a knife. I think at the time they were $375. There's no way I would ever pay $375 for a knife. What kind of idiot pays $375 for a knife? Anyways, I'm an idiot. I am that kind of idiot. I digress. Sebenza was always a thing for me, and this was always the most beautiful variant. Chris Reeve does lots of graphics and such, and a lot of them are very attractive. Even the Doppler pattern is very nice. But the night sky has always had a calling for me. It's always been something I've been interested in. And you might be asking, well, Nick, you've had a channel for how long and you never did one? Why, what the heck? Why, if it meant that much, why wouldn't you? Well, the thing is, there were a bunch of reasons for it. Partly because I don't need another Sebenza. That's a factor. But the other issue is the availability of these is not super common, right? They come out. They're pretty easy to get, right? Relative to a lot of stuff in the world, you can get a night sky Sebenza. But the thing is, usually you get variants, right? You get, for instance, it's got a Damascus blade. Damascus blades are great, but it's not something I need to pay that extra for. It's not something I would necessarily need for everyday carry. Or perhaps it's a different, the pattern on it looks different. It wasn't something super attractive. Or some of them they made with a little UFO rather than a shooting star. And I mean, that's cute. And you know what? Sure, whatever UFOs are, the Drake equation's a thing, but who knows, right? But at the same time, that was never really my style. Or sometimes it was just that they were never in stock, or it was a large one and I wanted a small. It just never quite made sense to me. But then it did. My buddy Slicey Dicey, who is another YouTuber who you should absolutely be checking out, actually posted this guy on his channel sometime back. And I remember thinking, oh, that's nice. And I remember him saying, oh, I don't know, this is too fancy. I don't know if I could ever carry this. Too fancy, not something I'm saying quite as often, perhaps, as Slicey Dicey. Anyways, I digress. I carried this today. So it jumped out at me there, and then sometime back, I saw it listed up on his Patreon site, because I'm a patron of Slicey Dicey, as I think you should be, too. He's a great reviewer. Should be, following and supporting his work. Support the creators you love. That's self-serving, but even if you don't want to support me, support him. Anyways, I digress. I saw that on there, and I remember texting him like, hey, Slicey, how's that night sky doing? Is that sold yet? And we had a little discussion, and, we come to the conclusion, let's see if it sells, let's see. But then eventually we realized that I shouldn't take that on my soul. Slicey Dicey has become into watches. I don't know how that happened. I'm not blaming anybody in the room here. I had nothing to do with this. Clearly, I told him not to get into watches. But Slicey Dicey became into watches, and as a result, he's developed a bit of a burgeoning watch need. And I am a person with a couple of more watches than I ever possibly could need. And we ended up coming to a certain agreement that involved the watches and the Sebenzas. And this guy, as a result, ended up on my table. But this is irrational. This is not something I need for the channel. Maybe this video is just a justification to have bought it. I don't know. Maybe that's the way my brain works. But whatever it is, at the very least, it's a piece that I've been wanting for a long time, and it never quite made sense. And now, suddenly, it does. And it brings me joy. And it brings me, not like long-lasting personal soul joy. I mean, that doesn't come from material goods. Anyways, I digress. Elephant in the room. But nonetheless, it brings me some joy. It brings me some excitement. And it is singularly a nice piece, right? There were many ones like this, but this one is a very nice example. And it's of the latest version and whatnot. There you go. Now I have a 31. Now it's up to date. I don't know whether I'm going to keep my other Sebenza, the Doppler, in light of this. I mean, if I do sell it, it'll go to my patrons. The circle of life. Anyways, I think that's how that song goes. Moving on. But at the same time, it's bringing me some joy. Will it stick around forever? I don't know. Maybe I'll decide it's too fancy. Actually, no. No, I probably won't be. I won't decide that. But it's bringing me some joy. And it's reminding me that, underneath all of this rational, analytical, the scare quotes are doing a lot of work here, right? Content creation-minded purchasing. At the end of the day, there's still a collector in there. Still an enthusiastic, younger man in there saying, holy crap, that's a crazy knife. I don't know if I'd ever spend that money, but oh my God, is that thing beautiful? Someday I want one. Well, hey, Nick Shabazz of the past, he finally made it happen a long time later. And it turns out you would spend that much money on a knife, you idiot. Anyways, I digress. So that's the story of this guy. You may see it around on Instagram. You may see it around, or you may just see it in my next collection overview. I don't know. But chances are there's not going to be another video on the Sebenza, except maybe this one. And hopefully you found this interesting. Let me know if in the comments if you've made similar things of just like, I shouldn't want this, but I want this, and it brings me joy. Let me know what that was for you. But most of all, I hope this has been at least mildly interesting to you, and that you had a nice, that you enjoyed the video, and that you enjoyed a video of this little sky right here. Okay, that was bad. Hope this has been interesting. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.